Okay.
Can you see them like this?
No.
Huh?
No.
No.
Here, I can't like that right now. So it's just cutting the top of your head. Okay, good evening, folks. We are here with Dr. Meeks, and we're going to do a quick interview with Dr. Meeks today just because of his extensive years of training and his background in martial and health sciences and spirituality. So I wanted just to take some time just to talk to Dr. Meeks and get some more of his philosophy about just different things. So today we're going to have more or less a martial arts type of influence and kind of ask him questions from a martial arts standpoint. So, Dr. Meeks, if you would, sir, can you kind of let people know, what's your background? I mean, how long you been training, and how did you start this journey?
Well, for one, on the internet, I'm also known as Dr. Oba, is my term and catchphrase that I've been using for many years through my cultural center and through my various artistic pursuits over the years. Just a brief biography of my martial training is I started at 10 years old in 1968 from Brooklyn, New York, Bedford-Stuyvesant area. Anyone that knows the East Coast knows that it has a very rich martial tradition, and especially in Brooklyn and in New York City itself. And I came up under the influences of and have been instructed by Moses Powell, Ronald Duncan, Thomas the Puppet, George Cofield, John Dinkins, Charlie Tuna Williams, just to name a few as a kid, Curtis Black, Bill Parrose. All of these men played a major role in my training as a child. I continued out of Brooklyn, boxing and doing some Golden Glove stuff, sparring partner for a lot of people, boxing. And then I went to a high school that was an all-boys high school. It was an experimental high school for boys that was going in and out of jail. And most of these young men were going in and out of Rikers Island and Spofford. And I went to that school. I didn't really need to be there. I was there because I had done some other academic things to get myself in some of the better Catholic high schools in New York. And so anyway, I went to this school, and it's where I developed and got my knowledge of the jailhouse rock, or skater, or 54, we called it back then. Because these guys coming in and out of jail, learning close quarter fighting, we fought every day, literally every day, in the bathroom, in the hallways, always in tight quarters, and I developed a inside fighting skill that was very proficient, and I was respected for it. From then, my martial training continued on when I went to Howard University and fought on the collegiate AAU team, where I was a winner and a champion in my weight division and in my rank, and continued with that until I went to Shaolin Wushu and began studying with Dennis Brown, Grandmaster Dennis Brown. And at that time in the 1980s, early 1980s, he was a dominant fighting force of martial arts school, one of the few kung fu schools that were winning in karate tournaments on the East Coast. And we fought in a lot of the Junri tournaments and other tournaments on the East Coast, and I was a dominant fighter there as well. I continue with my Kupigan and Gumi training under now Mfundishi Bakari Kalinda and Nanasechi Keith Blackman, who really helped push my Kupigana to the higher levels. And through them, my connections were made with Mfundishi Talona and Mfundishi Masi, who also added to and contributed substantially to my growth and development as a martial artist. From there, I received capoeira training. My first capoeira instructor was Nzazi, and also Gato, Negro Gato, and Amin, also in the early mid-80s, mid to late 80s, I'm sorry. And then continued from there with my training with various martial artists. Many times we had a school in Soho and in Chinatown in New York City, and I shared a space with a Wing Chun master, Bilal, and also with Grandmaster Ali Abdul Karim, one of the top students of Grandmaster Professor Ronald Duncan, in the style of ninjutsu. We shared a school teaching the three main arts. I was the Kupigana and Northern Shaolin guy. Bilal was the Wing Chun guy. He's a top student of Wing Chun. And then Ali Abdul Karim, as I said, teaching the ninjutsu style. And after that, I met the teacher who has been with me since, Dr. Hodari Nkulo, South African Isangoma and martial artist, world-renowned guy who's traveled around the world training martial artists around the world, and became his primary student. He would consider me his son and say that I am his #1 student, or one who he has, his heir apparent, let me say that. And he basically taught me his traditional South African martial arts, footwork, hand techniques, and weaponry from the Tosa and Zulu system of warrior development, spiritual warrior development. And this is one of the things that I'm primarily dedicated to, is teaching martial arts from a spiritual standpoint. I am old school in that respect. I have a lot of respect for the Shaolin Temple and the Wudang temples because of that. I believe that it's important to teach a strong ethical and moral code with teaching martial arts and teaching people the difference between being a martial artist and being a warrior, and being a soldier and being a warrior. And that's what I'm dedicated to and what I continue to do to this date. I'm also, in addition to that, to round out the understanding of who I am or what I am, is that I also am considered a master drummer in several traditions, West African traditions, North African traditions, mainly anywhere from the Northwest coast to Southern coast and Little Central African, and of course Afro-Cuban and Afro-Haitians are traditions of drumming that I was raised in. I am an initiated priest in the Orisa tradition. I have been practicing the tradition for close to 40 years, about as long as I've been a martial artist, which is over 40 years. And also have been a doctor of Oriental medicine, acupuncturist, herbalist, nutritionist for over 25 years. And these are the things that I am dedicated to at our Cultural and Healing Arts Center located in Denver, Colorado.
Wow, that's extremely extensive. And there's no way in this one interview we would be able to touch on all of those various areas that you have become a master of. And it's a pleasure, if you would, to be able to sit here and talk with you in regards to this. And as you were explaining about some of the things you've done as far as as part of your journey here in martial arts and the development of yourself, it sounds like you were using that, like martial arts was part of your life as you were growing up. So I guess my first question would be to how do you feel that martial arts training helps to strengthen the student athlete?
Okay. Through our Cultural Center, we have become known for our rites of passage programs. I started doing rites of passages. I'm a graduate of the East, the Hulu Sasa School in Brooklyn, New York, Bedford-Stuyvesant. And that school taught me a great deal about Pan-African nationalism, but also taught me a lot about being proud of who I am as an African American, and also taught me a lot about leadership. Well, it made me a leader, and it taught me how to create leaders, and I've taken that, as I have done it on the East Coast, and brought it out here to the West. And our Rites and Passage programs is probably one of our most famous programs nationally that we have run through our Cultural Center. I've been in all institutions, educational institutions, and in prisons and other places where men and women are incarcerated to teach the elements of true warrior training and spiritual development. And so warrior training, as we teach it, is a basis, I believe, for any, for youth particularly, to proceed and be successful at any sport. One of the things that we constantly have to tell the parents here through our center, because they're constantly taking kids out of the martial arts training class and leadership empowerment training in order for them to do sports. And I know a lot of the parents, probably have their own fantasy and expectations about their kids one day making it to the pros, and it's kind of sad that many people, particularly poor and middle class people, have that kind of, fantasy going on. But our emphasis is to teach that once a child, and really a person in general, has a strong self-esteem and confidence, that they pretty much can excel at just about anything. And we try to get across the point for that confidence to not come from a place of egocentricity, because then you're creating another type of monster, where the person becomes, starts to think that they are owed something by society and that they are beyond the law. But instead, we're teaching something that's more grounding, something that can't be taken away if you're not successful or if you're having a bad moment. Something that is there regardless of whether things are going your way or not. And that is just the ability to be tenacious, be creative, exercise wisdom and courage in everything that you do. And we believe that this development of these attributes would help any youth perform better at any sport. And all sports don't teach that. I mean, parents do think that sports teach that. It depends on who's the coach and what the coach's philosophy is and what type of person that person is. But it's not part of the system to teach people how to be better people because they play sports. Just because you play sports and you're an exceptional athlete doesn't mean that you're an exceptional person, as we all have seen many times in the media. One has nothing to do with the other. We're in the development of producing an exceptional human being, and as a result, everything else that they do benefits from that.
Those are some very valid points, being the fact that most of us as children are always raised to embrace sports as a way to further ourselves to possibly get into college. And definitely that's been the case many times for poor and middle class people. And it sounds like there's, to me, just like in this day in society, it's a big difference in how the times were different when you were coming up training versus when, some of the martial arts students of this day and time are coming up. And it just seems like, society has an overwhelming amount of technology that just is becoming, more acts like overstimulation, if you would, with the kids. So I guess my next question to you would be, what are some ways that you feel that the younger generation of martial artists can train to counteract the overstimulation of a technologically advanced society?
Okay, that is a very valid and important question, because we are being bombarded, our children are being saturated with these various technologies and with the electromagnetic fields from these things, which is very, very destructive. The main point that I would make here, because I can go on a roll about the science and the effects of the EMFs, but I want to stick to, I think, what I feel is the real gist of your question, which is how they deal with the addiction that they have to these things, because the society promotes the addiction of it. Every day on TV there's a different, new version of a particular phone or an iPad or what have you.